Okay, great. So, a little disclaimer then, as we say every time we do these calls, we've got a number of guests on this week, as we did last month. Those guests will be preparing some information. It's not intended to be bespoke business advice, and anything that you follow, you do so knowing that your mileage may vary. Okay. Let's move on then to who we've got on the call. So we've got Darren Williams from QuikSwitch here and John Ruddock from Leaps. They'll introduce themselves in due course. Before we get started, really, this was just an open discussion. Is there anything that anybody wanted to discuss specifically? So, Greg, Jonathan, you guys have got anything you want to go through?
No, was interested with the agenda anyway. So
great. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's good. Jonathan, anything from you wanted to go through in particular? Okay, I'm going to take silence as a no. Just chip in if you feel the need to. So yeah, obviously in the UK here we've had a fairly warm week or so. I'm sure that's affected trade for those people operating indoor leisure facilities.
I'll say actually, because I was chatting to a few theme park operators just last week at the conference.
Sure.
And they said they've been booked out at the weekends, which is unusual for them this time of year because obviously the warm weather's dragged them out. So, you know, one part of the industry.
Yeah. The ideal is to have your stuff inside and then build a theme park on the roof, no?
Yeah, that would work, I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Let's go into we'll go into the first presentation if everyone's happy to move straight in. That's Darren. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put myself on mute and have Darren kick off if that's okay, and we'll go from there.
Great stuff. Thanks, Si. Just pause whilst we get that up. Is that everyone see that? Great stuff. Yeah, so thanks for having me alongside. Really excited to talk to the association about what we're doing in a very similar sector, i.e. independent gyms and the Independent Gym Owners Forum. What we've basically put together is the QuikSwitch Group Purchasing Scheme now. The success of what we did with the Independent Gym Owners has led the supplier to allow us to now plug in other people, other sectors into the scheme. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity of letting me discuss that today. Let's kick off. There's a lot of words on here, so sorry, I can share the slides, for later. But it's a nice aid memoir for me. So yeah, basically this was born out of the frustration whilst the energy price started to rise incredibly in 2021. As I say there, QuikSwitch is dead proud when we produce a quote that we're going to save an operator significant sums of money. And all of a sudden we were starting to double and treble expenses, and that was a bit gut wrenching. And from a trading point of view, it was really difficult because we wanted to stick by best advice, which was making sure. Typically, you would sign an electricity contract and a gas contract maybe a year out, lock it in for 2 or 3 years, and then come back to it, revisit it again a year out from the renewal. And what we did as a business was decide that wasn't in the best interest of operators, knowing or hoping that the slight blip in the energy pricing, the big blip in the energy pricing, was only going to be a short-term thing. There was a known factor for it, and there would be a correction. We decided that we wouldn't lock in people's contracts, and we were only going to talk about 6-month contracts, and that was a business-wide decision. It meant that we were left open and vulnerable to brokers that maybe didn't take that as their view, and still carried on the old model. So we lost. We had the biggest churn rate in those 2 years that we've ever had as a brokerage. But it sparked us on as well. So we didn't just sit back and woe is me. What we started to do was talk to some of the associations that we were working with. So we did have a conversation with UK Active, who we're strategic partners with, and also the Independent Gym Owners Forum. So the Independent Gym Owners Forum is about 1,500 to 2,000 gyms. UK Active has obviously got onwards of 6,000 sites across the country in the health and fitness sector. What it allowed us to do was to present a really easy proposition to suppliers, because gyms have very similar usage profiles, have very similar risk profiles. There isn't that sort of flick of a switch at 8 o'clock in the morning like there is with manufacturing. So there's a surge in demand. It's a fairly level demand across the day. So it was a really nice vanilla way to present a cohort of users to a supplier to say, can we get better pricing if we were to drop all these people into your business. So the first stage was collect data, which we managed to do. Surveyed 1,100 sites and gathered their data, aggregated their data. We captured contract end dates and usage on an annual basis, and that allowed us to build a spreadsheet of what the potential looked like, which was then what we used in terms of going out to suppliers. And that's what we did. We went out to suppliers and we started off with supplier A, and we said, what's the best price you can give us for these? Once we got that price, we went to supplier B and said, supplier A giving us this money. So we started leveraging, so we actually ended up being an outsourced procurement department for the independent gym owners, and eventually rested on the supplier that we're using now, and started delivering that in May this year. And basically what the implementation part is, basically then getting these guys, as their contract end dates come up, to join the basket. So the first contract was a 15-month contract, taking us to September 2024. And then as we move through the year, so now we're only writing 11-month contracts. So everyone's going to co-terminate in September 24. And the reason behind that is, from a procurement strategy, whilst we've got all these different end dates, it's a little bit intangible. Whereas when we get to September 2024, if we can say we've got X number of sites, X number of usage, all coming on for contracting in September 2024, that's a really attractive proposition to suppliers, and hopefully could be worth a couple of pence a kilowatt hour, penny and a half a kilowatt hour, in terms of the price that we're going to get going forward. We basically took a decision on pricing and service and ancillary products, if you like. So the supplier we rested with, UK headquartered, which we thought was really important for all the guys that we were going to join the group with. They are absolutely top of their game in terms of their Trustpilot reviews and things like that. So we know there's a lot of confidence from their customers for us to be able to plug in our customers. But also, one of the key critical decision-making points was the fact that they also offer a 100% renewable product. So you probably hear about carbon credits and carbon offsetting. Plant a tree for every X amount of kilowatt hours you sell, which is what the vast majority of the industry do. The supplier we're using actually can get 100% REGO-backed supplies. So REGO is the Renewable Energy Guarantee of Origin. So whilst you're not using electron for electron in your site, what they do is they produce the amount of kilowatt hours that you're consuming, plug that into the grid, and then obviously you drag out a different electron, but ultimately it's then 100% renewable. And REGO is a system that's backed by Ofgem. Certificates are produced to say, this is what you used last year, this is how much CO2e you've avoided this year. And we thought that was a massive selling point. It does come with a slightly higher tariff, but in terms of what we were able to achieve, it's actually still cheaper than the market price for a non-renewable product. So a really easy way to set yourself off on that pathway to net zero. And as I say in the slide there, we're achieving 10 to 20% below the market rate. So we'll always produce a quote with the supplier quote coming from our normal sort of search across the whole market, and then what we're getting is the basket quote. And typically that's like I say, 10 to 20%. It's meter dependent, depends on the size of the meter, the size of the consumption, but generally we're quoting under the curve, so that curve's always moving. Come September 2024, what we're hoping for is a one price fits all model. So we're hoping in spring to start negotiations for September. And at that point, we're looking to secure a fixed rate per contract. There will be difference in transmissions and standing charges, all that kind of stuff, but the operators that are involved will know they're paying 20 pence a kilowatt hour across the board. And that's irrespective of the size. And that's one of the things that the gym owners are really hooked into, is that they are now buying on parity with some of the bigger groups that have these sorts of basket pricing available to them, and knowing full well that they can buy exactly the same rate as, let's say, Energy Fitness or Anytime Fitness, one of the big sort of franchise groups. And that's really sort of been one of the driving factors, because now the gym owners are telling the other gym owners, jump on and get involved in this, because it's all going to help all of us at the end of the day. So the service, in terms of QuikSwitch, we don't just stop at the contract. We're really passionate about that. A lot of brokers will, see you, get you contracted, and see you in 3 years, or see you at the end of the term. what we try and do is add some extra value to what we're doing. So not only are we looking to save money on the upfront in terms of the contract pricing, but we're looking to see if we can save you money elsewhere. So there's a lot of work done on things like KVA capacity charging, which basically sets your standing charge and some of the transmission costs. And if you think about it like council tax for a meter, so if you're in band A, you pay the most amount of council tax. If you're in a higher banding on KVA capacity, that means you're going to pay higher standing charges, and it does also affect your unit rate. What we do is we audit that and we look at your usage and make sure that you've got sufficient capacity, so you're not going over the allowed amount, but not too much headroom that you're actually paying for capacity you're not using. So that's part and parcel. Once everyone joins the basket, that's the second stage for us. And again, free service for us that we offer to the customers. But as you see there, Yorkshire Gym saved about £6,000. In fairness, that's 2 gyms, so it was about £3,000 per site. Meaning that that's an extra saving on the fact they've saved on the basket price as well. So incremental benefits. We also look at the meter operating contracts. So those of you who've got half-hourly meters, there's a little charge you'll see on the bill, which is your meter operating contract, typically about £2,000 a year. We've got a new to market supplier who will give us it way cheaper than that. So we're hoping to shave at least £500 a site off the meter operating contract. But it also allows us then to capture all the data. So every single kilowatt hour that's going through, we're able to come back to you and say we're seeing a lot of usage here, or you can check your bills. A lot of the time there's a bit of a lack of transparency in billing, between billing and usage. So we can actually confirm that data to you as a third party using the meter operating contract. So the results, which you're all really excited to hear. This is a little bit out of date, 175 sites. I think this was at the start of, middle of August, these slides were produced. I think we're up to about 230 sites now. And yeah, as it says, they're on track to deliver even bigger savings next year. These two guys, Pat and Carl, they were being quoted against the price they received in 2022. 2022. So obviously there was that was when the market was 45, 60 pence, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's why the numbers look quite eye-watering there, but it's marketing, so why wouldn't I put it out there? So yeah, Pat literally saved me £1,000 a month yesterday. So that kind of stuff is really what's spurring us on in terms of trying to drive this forward and opening it out to more participants, and therefore growing the benefit of the group purchasing scheme. A few more examples. So Nathan, HR Fitness, they've got about 7 or 8 sites. We saved them £2,150 on their lowest off site. Bryn, that was 1,300 quid saved against the renewal from his current broker. So that's, there's no fudging of the data there. He got a quote from his current broker for renewal. We came in with our quote and we've saved him 1,300 quid a year. And then Gladstone Software, who are quite a big player within the fitness sector, offering membership software, CRM software. We've just started working on their HQ, saved them nearly £9,000. But really importantly, they had the foresight to also lock into a totally green product. So they're also avoiding 43 metric tons of CO2 just at the headquarters. So you can see there's a massive sort of leap forward in terms of your aspirations for net zero there. And again, taking that service further, it's not just about the unit cost. Can we reduce the number of units we're using? So things like building management systems, especially on sort of big shell units, you see a huge amount of benefit in terms of monitoring what's going through each circuit, to air conditioning, to hot water heating, to kitchens and all that kind of stuff, and monitoring what's going through and when it's going through, importantly. We see sort of disparity between opening times, closing times, and when the air conditioning is kicking in. And that could be 3 hours before and 3 hours after. You don't necessarily need that long a difference. We certainly don't need the after. So saving 3 hours of usage just on your air conditioning could really represent a significant saving. So for a modest investment, it's a monthly service, software as a service scheme. You can monitor what your building's actually using. And then things like high efficiency LEDs, I mean, that's fairly straightforward. And then all the way through to things like solar panels, so bigger capital expenditure, but also looking at roof space, matching up consumption with production, which doesn't often happen in that sector, and giving you a solar array that's going to take you a vast way off the grid, where you can, in terms of saving money and usage, and then also plug in a green product. You're really laughing in terms of your green credential. And that's me. It's fairly straightforward. Hopefully, I've gone really quickly because I'm conscious of time, so hopefully I haven't jumped through too quickly. But yeah, if there's any questions from the operators, I'd love to answer them.
I'll just very quickly chime in while others are considering whether to ask a question. But one of the things that I find really amazing about this product is, and I like to link it back to this idea of the cost of customer acquisition. So as a leisure operator, I'm obsessed with how much it costs me to acquire customers, because it's really about what those customers are worth to me over their lifetime that dictates how much I can pay to market to acquire new customers, right? So if I can reduce my my energy bills, and I can increase my net profit as a result of that, then I can afford to pay more to acquire new customers. And that's how we beat our competition, right? So the idea is really simple, is that if we want to acquire more customers and we want to beat our competition, then we need to be the person that makes those customers worth more to us. And we can only do that by reducing our costs. And there's actually 5 other things that we can do in terms of increasing their value. But that is, reducing our costs is a fundamental part of that process. And I think it's overlooked a lot of times.
Well, I think, we've used some, fairly safe examples. There's a couple of operators where we're saving way more money, but didn't want to stay anonymous. What we're actually doing is adding money straight back onto the bottom line, right? If there's no extra capex, if Gladstone as an example, they are £8,900 more profitable than they were this time last year. From no extra work. So again, does that free up money for more staff, more resource, client acquisition? Absolutely. What I failed to mention was that the success of the energy scheme has led us to start drilling down into the other costs that we deal with. So we're really close to a waste management service that's going to leverage the amount of sites that we potentially could onboard on waste management. Similarly with telecoms and broadband and merchant services there or thereabouts already. So we're going to expand the offering in terms of developing the idea more than anything else. The group procurement, it's what all the big guys do. Why shouldn't some of the smaller operators benefit from that sort of work? So that's really exciting as well, because every time we save money, that's money going onto the bottom line. However you deploy that, that's money going onto the bottom line.
Yeah, amazing, really good. And I think in terms of next steps, Greg, is there anything you want to add or ask? Jonathan is back shortly, I'm sure, but is there anything anyone else wants to ask?
No, fine. I think we're tied in for the next 12 months, so it's something that we'll be looking at in and around then.
Right.
Well, Greg, look, share. If you could share the data anyway. If what we do is we offer that expression of intent. If you could share the bills with us anyway, that means we can add it. So there's a future benefit, baked in. Do you know what I mean? So if you're happy to share the data, that's all we need at this stage. Because the more usage, the bigger the saving. So it's a collaborative piece, isn't it?
Yeah. No. So like I said, I've got all your contact details, so we'll no doubt be in touch.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Darren, I'll circulate this as well to everybody, the broader audience as well, when we do the kind of rewatch of this video, so that people can just get access to that. I think it's fantastic, and it's something that it's a no-brainer. You're adding huge amounts of benefit with virtually zero friction. So yeah, great work, and thank you from everybody who's had the chance to benefit from that so far.
Thanks for your time, Si.
Amazing. Right. Well, what I'll do then is I'll move on and quickly run through my little piece here. So let me quickly share screen, and then we'll work our way through it. So, okay. So just a quick check. Can everybody see the presentation there? Amazing, got some thumbs up. Okay, so we'll quickly go through what this is about. Now, this has come to life because someone actually mentioned this to me, someone who's not on the call, but we'll plan on watching it back. And when they were talking about this idea that back when I first got involved in the active indoor leisure market, I got involved with trampoline parks. And when I did so, what I found is that there was this this community of people who were building facilities based on the performance of a facility in the next town, or they were franchise owners who have been sold a dream. And what they realized is that just building it and hoping they come just isn't the right approach. And there are still people who are struggling with this. So I'm going to try and define the problem and then work through and talk about some solutions. Now, we'll get into it, but let's go through the problem itself. I would define this as any facility operator that does not or will not achieve their revenue projections. I think that's what this applies to, regardless of how we got to this, whether you just built the facility and said there's nothing for kids to do here. This is who is affected by it. But beyond that, I think it also affects a number of other positions in the market. So yes, owners, we've discussed owners, but if you're an investor in a trampoline park facility or any other leisure facility that was built on this basis, if you're a supplier, the staff, the local communities, and it also has an impact on innovation and future leisure developments. And so I would say the innovation here in our market, in the leisure market particularly, it requires a buoyant market or markets that are in growth for innovation to happen at a rate that is of true value to all of us. But also, if we look at your own facility, or you may be a facility operator now who's incredibly buoyant and doing really well, you may just need to zoom out on your timeline for this to affect you. If you consider that your life cycle as a business is going to change over periods, you might find that in the future you might have increased local competition. It might be the end of a honeymoon or novelty periods. You might face economic downturns, pandemics, as we've seen, healthcare messaging, and so it's important to identify who this is really aimed at. And so I've come up with the killer 3, and this is how to spot future failures. Now, the first thing that I would look for if I was identifying facilities that are likely to be affected by this principle is a commoditized access offer. Now, let me explain this in a little bit more detail. Commoditized offers pretty much means, with all things being equal, if framed through the eyes of a customer, they would be able to compare your offer with other offers of the same nature, of indistinguishable nature. So we would say that there are a few distinguishable features. And a good example of commoditized or commodities, things like rice, grains, those types of things, they're pretty much indistinguishable. And so what you see is customers might look at your product and say, well, an hour of access to this facility is the same as an hour of access here, or an hour of entertainment with you is an hour of entertainment over there. And so there's no real reason for anybody to choose you over anybody else. They might come to you for the purposes of novelty, to try your facility and then move on to another facility. Or they might say, well, why would I go and spend an hour in this facility when I could spend 2 hours in that facility, and just compare basically on price. And that's what happens in commodity markets. They are priced by market efficiency. So the person who can supply with the greatest efficiency, reduce the price as far as they possibly can, just until the overheads are all covered and there's a little bit of profit left in there, and those people will win, because essentially the customer can just say, well, what's the price of an hour here versus an hour there? So that would be a commoditized access offer, and that's the first of the killer 3. The second is mostly novelty activities. So to understand my thoughts on this, it's useful to consider novelty as the opposing end of a spectrum, with acquisition at the other end of it. So it might be skill acquisition, gamification, health acquisition, so gyms. These are a far less novelty, but much more sticky. And we'll get into that. But novelty would be something that requires reinvestment. They're going to require potentially exceptional amounts of new business to achieve consistent revenue figures. So they either have to keep reinventing themselves through reinvestment, or they're going to need a huge catchment area to have enough new business to maintain those revenue numbers. And what we find is often its longevity is found at the other end of that spectrum, because if you have a commoditized offer that is high in novelty, you run at very, very low margins by nature of being commoditized, and it's priced at market efficiency. Those low margins then make it very difficult to stimulate reinvestment in the facility. Without reinvestment, you don't have novelty in the facility. And so if you don't have a big enough catchment, or any of the force multipliers we'll see shortly, you'll find that the business ends up in contraction. And so it's only a matter of time before that becomes a killer for the business. And then the last thing is no problem solving products. Now, this might sound obvious, but this is the true hallmark of build it and they will come. Someone does a demographics analysis. They say there's nothing around here for the kids to do. They produce a facility at great cost or on a promise from a franchise owner. But the products and services don't adequately address the needs or solve problems for the customer. So if you operate a facility selling access to novelty-led activities by the hour, for example, then your business may face this risk. At some point, it will probably face this risk. And that's my opinion on this subject. Now, let's have a little look at the solution. So the solution is very, very straightforward. And that is to solve problems for our customers with sticky products that reduce commoditization. Now, we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a bit more detail. Let's start with solving problems for our customers. And a good way to begin this is to start with a thought experiment. And the thought experiment is quite simply, what do we guarantee to provide our customers? And the reason this is important is not because we're asking to give a money back guarantee, but if you had to give a money back guarantee to your customers, what would you say you're going to give them? And if you didn't, they would have their money back. That's a really valuable thought experiment for anyone in the leisure sector, because a lot of the times in the leisure sector, or certainly it's my experience in some of the customers that I'm working with now as a consultant, is I'm seeing we've built this wonderful facility. Why are we not saturated? Why do we not have people queuing up to come through the door? And the answer to that question is this really, it's, well, what do you actually offer them? What problems do you solve for them? And we'll look at a little scale of effectiveness here. So this is the pain versus gain chart. Now, if you solve someone's pain, you can afford to charge a lot more. Sorry, they're a lot more valuable normally in most cases than if you solve for gain. So you offer something to someone, a lot more valuable. And to illustrate the point here is you look at someone who maybe can ill afford healthcare across the pond. If you face them with a very, very difficult healthcare problem that needs solving, they will normally be able to raise capital where they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So if you said, look, you can buy this Ferrari for 150K, or you can get this very, very important life-saving treatment for 150K, I can guarantee you raising 150K is going to be much, much easier for someone who has significant pain to resolve. And so we find pain is normally more powerful. So the task is to create an exhaustive list of problems you could solve for your target customer. That's the task, right? So instead of just saying, here's an hour of access, the task is, well, what are their problems and how can we solve them? So how do we do that? Well, we start off by listing all the problems we can foresee that a customer might experience as they relate to the product. And so you consider the full journey, we consider the full journey. And as an example, I mean, we might look at something like school trips. So if you want to get a school to come to the facility, it's important to list all of the problems that school might face coming to the facility. It could be everything from risk assessments, health rhetoric, particularly if you're in the trampoline park market. How do you tell people or convince people that it is a safe activity for the most part, provided people work within the boundaries of the rules that are there. So you look at all of these problems and be exhaustive about it. List every single issue that a person might face in pursuit of attending your facility and taking on one of your products. And nothing is off the table at this stage. Then the next thing to do is to talk to as many customers, your ideal customers, as possible, past, present, and potential, and make a list of all the reasons they attend. And ask what else you could be doing. And if you're not getting good intel, a good trick here is to ask them what their friends would say, because it allows them to detach from their opinion and give you something that's maybe a little bit more honest. Once you've got this list, you need to make sure that you don't look at the list through an operational lens of what is possible. You just have to have an exhaustive list of problems. Now, why is that important? The reason it's important is, first of all, we're trying to decommoditize our products and crush the competition. So if you solve 5, 10, 15 different problems for a customer, then you're no longer in competition with a 1 hour product here and a 1 hour product there. So you don't have to concern yourself with whether or not they're going to choose an hour with you or an hour elsewhere, because actually you're solving a unique and specific set of problems for the customer. We'll get to how we solve them in just a moment. The second and third reason this is important relates to advertising. So search advertising, where people are looking for a specific response to or solution to a problem, you can only do if you understand the problems of your customer. So in terms of search advertising, you should be able to appropriately intercept someone's search with your content, maybe PPC ads, pay-per-click ads, those kind of things. Doing it by understanding how the question is asked, because you understand the problem, and providing an appropriate solution for that. And in terms of interruption advertising, as you get to know your customers better, you'll know where their attention is already going. So when you look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those places, if you know the problems that you're trying to solve for them, you're probably likely to know which groups they might be in on Facebook and where they might have their attention already to look for those solutions. So young mothers, as a good example, young in terms of their time as a mother, not young as in their age, but mothers in the early stage of motherhood, I've come to understand, go through a lot of problem solving in order to get to grips with those early stages of motherhood. And so they're often looking for communities to help and support them. And that's a great way to intercept or, get involved in that process, provide problems to solutions, bringing them together, create communities. And if you do that properly, then you can afford to charge a little bit more for it, because if you solve problems that really occur for people, then the value proposition from you goes up, and so too does the charge. And that helps to break out of that commoditized pricing structure where you're priced on market efficiency. So the natural next step then is to assign solutions to every problem, regardless of cost and operational difficulty. So don't look at this through an operational lens. What do they call it? Blue sky thinking, the idea of sitting down and writing down all the possible solutions to the problems you've created. And from that, we're trying to identify solutions that work for the needs of our customer, but also have this kind of intersection point. And I'll talk to you about that now. And it's a wonderful exercise called the 10x 1/10 exercise, where you go through the solutions and you're looking for this intersection where if you start with what would you supply if you had to charge 10 times what you currently charge? So let's say you charge £10 an hour for access. If you had to charge £100 an hour, what of all those solutions would you provide in order to create value that is worth £100 an hour? Conversely, if you can only charge 1/10, so if you currently charge £10, if you only charge 1/10 of that, so £1, what would you supply in order to have enough value to keep people coming to you for just £1? And what you find at the intersection is you find products and services that you can position at 1/10 the price, that have a marginal cost of reproduction, and products and services that are at the 10x times that have high value, and somewhere where they meet is what you need to offer. So it's high value products with a lower cost of reproduction, and we bundle those products together into an offer that solves problems for our customers. Now, obviously, they're not always going to happen that you have these products that exist with a marginal cost of reproduction that are of such high value you could times 10x for them. But when you find that intersection, or you find products that come to that intersection or roughly in that intersection, that's when we start building these bundle offers. We put them together and we start selling them without commoditization. That is how we solve problems for our customers. That is how we provide something that our customers need. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an example of that in this next section when we talk about sticky products. So sticky products really is a good example, is a good way for me of saying sticky products for me is how I would define products that have high revisitation rates, okay, high retention rates. So I've got a little scale here that hopefully exemplifies this. On the left, we've got low sticky products, and on the top, we've got we've got high sticky products, right? Low sticky products, they are normally, and they're not necessarily poor businesses, they're just part of business models. But low sticky products are products that people are less likely to buy with frequency. Okay. And as a result, they often rely on force multipliers. Now, I'm confident that everybody here and everybody watching this can think of businesses that are like this. So they might have a product in a high footfall location. It's heavily novelty led, and it's the footfall that allows them to keep churning new business in order to have people engage with their product. They might be of a certain critical mass. So they're big enough that they have a broad enough catchment area that, again, they have enough new business to keep going. So the retention is low, but the new business is high, and so they can afford to continue as they are. Now, if they're a lower retention business model, you will probably find as well that they have regular and significant reinvestment and reinvention, or they are the something est of something. So they might have the biggest park, or the tallest slide, or the broadest, the widest, the longest. You know, they have something that is drawing people in from further afield. Now, a great example of this is something like a theme park, right? So theme parks aren't necessarily expecting to have people revisit weekly or monthly. The cadence of revisitation is possibly stretched out over a year or 2 years, with the majority of customers falling somewhere on a distribution curve at maybe once every 3 years. And that's where you'll see their reinvestment cadence as well matches that process, right? But our job here is to find products from our list of solutions that our customers need regularly, that solve problems at the appropriate value, so that the frequency of visits increases, and so too does stickiness. And then you can reward the increased visit frequency with things like membership proposals or reduced admission fees. Okay. Now, an example of this would be something like an after-school club, and we'll look at that now in our last section here on reduced commoditization. So let's look at two different products. So the first thing is it's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, and you can go to your local trampoline park, pay an hour, free jump, park access, right? The alternative product to that is this, where the kids are fed and watered, they've had activity, they're going to sleep well tonight as a result of it, and you, the parent, are going to get an extra hour of work done, or finish a couple of chapters of your book that you've been desperately trying to finish. Now, that is a set of problems solved, whereas the previous slide, 1 hour access to free jump, is no problem solved, it's a commoditized offer. And so in terms of the second product here, the marketing that we can put around this is all focused on how we've resolved some problems and the effects of how those problems are solved. So when we go back to search and interruption advertising, we're able to form an offer here that really does meet the needs of our customers. The beautiful thing about this product as well is that it lends itself ever so well to memberships, because there's enough people, potentially in your catchment area, that might be workers from home. They've got to pick up the kids at 3:15, and they need something to do with the kids while they get that extra hour or two of work done. So why not create a membership product around that, where the kids then come to you, choose to come to you, make the most of that time, and they're there 3, 4, 5 times a week. Okay, so that's how we decommoditize the product, and we start to compete really in a vacuum where we've got no other facility in the area that is able to offer that. And doing that exercise helps us to frame appropriately the right solution for our customers. And I'm going to give you one more example of decommoditization. So on the left-hand side here, you can see, a load of grains. I think they're grains. There's probably some nuts and seeds and other things in there. But look at the way that Uncle Ben's have moved forwards with a decommoditized product for rice. What they've understood in this process is that the customer doesn't just want rice. They want ease, efficiency, taste. They want a number of these other problems solved for them, so that when they get home at the end of an evening, they can reach into the cupboard, something that is stored with a long shelf life, pop it in the microwave. 2 minutes later, they have a substantial portion of a meal that is somewhat healthy. I won't go into the detail there, but somewhat healthy, tasty, and meets their needs. Another really good example of this is Duracell. How long can Duracell keep going on and telling us that they found more energy in those batteries? But they continue to do so, and their marketing is centered around solving problems for parents around their relationship with their kids. So at Christmas, we'll probably see another set of Duracell adverts where parents have forgotten to buy batteries, or the batteries they bought are cheap and don't last long enough for the kids to enjoy the full extent of Christmas. And so what they're doing is exactly what we've discussed. They're finding the problems that parents are facing, aligning solutions with those problems, and then finding ways to market those solutions through interruption advertising that really pulls on the heartstrings of parents and allows them to and promotes parents solving problems in their relationships with their kids, or whatever it may be that they've niched out on. So let's that's pretty much it for me, and I would hope that for those that are watching this and watching back on this resonates with people when they look at how their park was built, how they've structured their products, and what they might be able to do moving forwards to to add value to their customer base. All right, okay. That's me. Are there any questions here from anybody? I think we're good. Okay, so lastly, then I'm gonna hand over to the wonderful John Ruddock from Leaps, who's going to give us a little bit of an update then on the ISO assessment process. John, if you're happy to introduce yourself again for those that didn't see last month, and let us know what's happening.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Si. I'm John Ruddock. I'm the General Manager of the Leisure Equipment Asset Protection Scheme. So we are the only UK certification scheme that certifies operations, equipment, and also inspection bodies. So the three main causes of accidents across pretty much any leisure activity. So we certify theme parks, family entertainment centres, and now active indoor leisure association members as well, which is great news. So what I'm going to do, I haven't got a presentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our website, show you where our scheme operating procedures are, go through that a little bit, talk a little bit more about the scheme and what it does, but not in any great amount of detail. But I'm more than happy if somebody wants to approach me afterwards and really talk specifics about what it means specifically to your organisation, your park, whatever it may be, because it's a bit of a partnership. This is that we're entering into partnership between Leaps and the Active Indoor Leisure Association to help you reduce your safety risks, prove to regulators, local authorities, insurers, members of the public that you are validated by a professional scheme to say, actually, you're doing what you should be doing. You've got all you're validated against the standard, and you're reducing your risk to the general public. So without further ado, I'm just going to share my screen, which is this one here. So hopefully you can see our website. Thumbs up from Si if you can. No thumbs up from Si, so I'm guessing you can't. Yeah, oh, there we go. You clearly wasn't paying attention there. Pay attention, Si. So this is our website. Okay, so that's the landing page. Announcements down the bottom, that kind of thing. But what we're looking for is so when an attraction signs up, we have a find our attraction page. You won't find trampoline parks here on the moment because none have signed up. But once there'll be a new category added in there, trampoline parks or maybe TAILA members, something like that, and they're searchable, so you can see everybody that signed up in a particular category. So for instance, our venture activity, so high rope stuff is within there. Theme parks, all the different theme parks that are signed up there, Paulton's Park, Greenwood Family Park, so on and so forth. A bit that we're adding to the website will be the equipment checker, which here says under development. In the next few weeks, this will be launched, and you'll be able to click on that link, and it will show pictures of all the equipment that's certified under Leaps that's at your particular site. So, for instance, if you have high ropes, go-karts, coin-operated devices, whatever it might be that you need certified, not just your trampoline park, then that can be listed there as well, and it will list when it was inspected, when the next inspection is due, that kind of thing. So that kind of validation that we're doing. Inspection bodies are clearly listed here. So these are all the different inspection bodies that are currently signed up to Leaps. They all do different things. A&S Inman is well known within the industry. You can see his full list of competencies that he's signed off by Leaps. So he can do theme parks, design review, assessment, performance design, initial test. He can do adventure activities, so your high rope stuff, inaugural, periodical, and trampoline parks, inaugural and periodical as well. But what we're looking at specifically, and what I want to go into today, is the get certified part. So this lists our scheme operating procedures. So this is the nitty-gritty of how our scheme works. So different fixed site leisure attractions, you have different standards. You have different areas that you need to comply with. So theme parks, is all based around Health and Safety Guidance 175. So we've written a scheme operating procedure specifically around that. Adventure activities, that's a different ISO, that's 15567. So we have one specifically written around there. Family entertainment centres is pretty much 1176. So again, another SAP written around that. And perhaps within your entertainment centre, within your park, you have stuff that needs to be compliant against your standard, 23659, and also maybe you've got go-karts in there, which would fall under the HSG 175 there for theme parks. Maybe you've got a climbing wall in there, or maybe you've got some kind of high ropes apparatus. Well, maybe that's 15567, which is adventure activity. So what I'm trying to say is that we're a diverse scheme, and we can certify pretty much every part of your operation, your inspection side of it, and your equipment. And you know what? If you've got some bespoke thing that you've had specifically made or whatever, have a conversation with us, and there will be a way that we can certify that we can prove you best practice against the standards, and we can sign that off as long as everything's safe and there aren't the high accident rates against it or anything like that. So there's always a way under leaks, is what we're trying to say. So Family Entertainment Centre, Active Indoor Leisure Association. So we just had this part added this morning. So let's hope the link works. And it downloads the SOP. So this is the operations side of it. So there's always one for operations for the park to sign up to, and then there's one for the inspection body as well. And that's how the inspection body should do his inspection on that particular bit of equipment. So this particular SOP has been bounced between Si and I for a number of months to get it right. And I want to stress as well, this is a living document. If you come to me or Si comes to me and says, actually, the insurers has been speaking to the association and they really want to, there's a prevalent risk that exists, they're having a higher accident rate against a specific thing, and we want to focus a little bit more in this area. This is a living document. We'll add it to the SOP and we'll help you prove compliance against that area. So it's really kind of that partnership that I want to grow over time, and we'll learn more from one another, and we'll make it better as it goes on. The SOP itself then has a glossary at the start with all the different terms. So throughout every SOP, the controller is a person or organisation who has overall control of an asset, either an individual or corporate. So we will refer to you as park operators as controllers throughout. That's language that's taken from Health and Safety Guidance 175, which is theme parks and fairgrounds. But that is the overall guidance for the system for safety of attractions, and something that we as LEAPs get judged against for regulator approval. So that's why we have a common language throughout all the SOPs. And you might never have been called a controller before, but it's just for that common language between all the SOPs. There's some regulatory governance guidance that's in pretty much all the operators' SOPs at the start, which lists our government documentation and references, different references in each SOP, depending on which industry you're working in. So you can see here, prevalent is 23659, and PAS 5000 for some of the legacy parks that will be out there. We would expect that new parks will be brought in against 23659, but we've also written a way for PAS 5000 parks to also come in and be validated under the scheme as well. We have certain responsibilities. So you as a controller will sign up to ensure that where applicable, the guidance in the publications are followed. Every asset is designed manufacturers so it complies with the relevant legislation standards and the LEAPs system for safety of attractions, which is detailed within here as well. We talk about 23659 and ensuring that every asset recorded on the directory of assets, so that's where your equipment will go, are safe at all times when used by the public. So a bit of governance stuff up front here, and some of the responsibilities for controllers for you guys as well. To be registered on the directory of operators, controllers must own, operate a fixed site leisure attraction, mobile leisure asset, or mobile adventure training unit. So that specifies what we sign up against. And that you are all subject to asset inspection and complete recommended actions for different types of leisure assets. So that's those different SOPs that we talked about. We will certify you in different ways. Different types of inspections then. So this is the LEAPS system for safety of attractions. So there's 3 different ways that you can bring a park into the scheme. So the first one will be in accordance with HSG 175. Unlikely that you will bring your park in this way, but it does give you a route. And that's off regulator guidance. That's written by the HSE. So that is a way to bring a park in. More likely, you will bring a new park in, certainly through 23659. So that's pre-use inspections and post-installation inspections as described in there. So we'll validate you against that. Or if you have a legacy site, then we will sign you up against PAS 5000 with a few extra things as well, okay? So I think it was generally recognised that PAS 5000, particularly on the inspection side, was a little bit flimsy. It didn't quite have the detailed content that certainly a scheme like LEAPS would like to validate what you're doing against. So there's a few extra things in there against PAS 5000. So details of any asset design, for instance, any relevant assumptions that are being made for against that assessment, identification of hazard, control measures, any residual risks. So a few extra things to do if you have got a park that's PAS 5000, but certainly stuff that's not beyond what would be expected. Talks about certification, what certification looks like for you as a controller, how that's attained, and also how to apply. So you apply via SI at the Active Indoor Leisure Association. So that application goes into him. He sends it to me. Payment is also received through SI's organisation as well. But we have that direct relationship still, and we have certain levels of assurance. So this is the bit where we help you validate what you're doing against the scheme. So the assurance side of it is, in fact, I'll just go back to the click through to the appendix. So this is the assurance requirements. So every year there will be a Teams meeting between myself or somebody within LEAPS and somebody from your park, from your organisation, and we will go through this appendix, and we will share screens, and you will prove to us that you are, for instance, 5.1, provide evidence of risk assessments to satisfy the reference. And these references are all against the ISO 23659. So, for instance, that 5.1, and I've got it open on another screen here, is risks shall be assessed in order to eliminate where possible or reduce risk to a tolerable level. And it lists a certain amount of things that you need to do under there. So we will validate you against these operational parts of the standard. And, you know, it's quite comprehensive. I'm not going to take a huge amount of credit for this, because I did a questionnaire, and then Si looked at it and said, actually, we need to add this job. We need to put more in here. So it was very much a collaboration, and I thank Si for that, because we want to get this right. We want this to add value to your organisation. It's got to tick those boxes for us. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? So these are all the parts that are pertinent to trampoline parks and that particular standard. And they're the kind of things that we will check. And like I said right at the start, this is a living document. So we can add to this as we feel like it needs to be added to. Wherever you feel like it's going to add value, not only to your site, but also the wider community of members as well, then we're happy to do that, and we're happy to add value and reduce those safety risks. That was very much a quick canter through, but they are there now. You can download them. You can look at them in detail. If you want to have a call, just me and your particular park to dig into particular areas and say, actually, we haven't got this or we haven't got that, and we'll work it out. We will find a way. to certify you to make it right. And you know, we're open to doing that, and we're really quite excited about this relationship going forward. Thanks, Si.
Thanks, John. That's really awesome, really useful. I think there's a huge amount of benefits behind this scheme, huge amount of benefits. One of the key ones that we've discussed on a number of occasions is the ability for a facility that has grown beyond being a trampoline park, what we're calling trampoline plus parks, to be able to leverage what you have at your disposal through the LEAP scheme to have things assessed that wouldn't have otherwise been so within the facility. And so as a trade association, our concern is always going to be, are we assessing facilities in their full extent, and are they putting certification up that relates to everything within that facility? And so this allows us to see that everything is being reviewed. So I think it's a wonderful thing, and it will no doubt add value for the broader community, and you know, far beyond just what we appeal to.
Excellent. Thanks.
Amazing. Well, I guess if anyone's got any questions for John, then they can do so. Drop John an email, or go through probably go through the LEAP's website. Is that right, John?
Yeah, go through the LEAP's website if you want. There is an inquiries contact us area on the website as well. You can do it that way. Or quite happy for you to drop one into our inquiries, which is inquiries@leapscheme.com. You can send it through there, and either me or a member of the team will pick that up.
Amazing. Great stuff. Okay, well, I think that wraps up today. Really appreciate your input, John, Darren, and thank you everyone for being involved. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Watching. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks, John. All the very best. Cheers.